Thank you, Chris, for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So Chris, I think one of the biggest things for us when we think about 100 Flowers as a company is you've always been at the forefront of new technology, and constantly pushing the customer experience forward. What has been that company's journey, including the history with new tech innovation?
I think our journey, our company journey, really has been our customer's journey. And that's one of the things that we really have always tried to instill is to follow the consumer. And in order to follow the consumer, really be a little bit ahead of where the consumer is. So we've always tried to position our company to be wherever the customer wants us to be or be where the customer is. So it's always experimenting, looking at new technologies that have the potential to change consumer behavior, but then looking at that and saying, okay, now how can we get involved? And one of the things that we have as part of our culture is to get engaged early. We've wound up by chance, I think, establishing a bit of a process for how we do that. And as every company has their list of acronyms, we have our own, and we call it ELAC. Not exactly the best sounding acronym in the world, and that's to engage early, learn, and learn right along with the consumer. So when there's a new technology emerging, we want to get involved early so we can learn with the consumer. Then adapt it while learnings and iterate on the product, and then bring it into a stage of commercialization. So we've tried to do that all along, and again, follow the consumer and you follow our journey.
Right. And I guess sort of thinking about adopting new technologies, I remember you were one of the earliest who really tapped into AI. And since then, you've really utilized it in multiple touch points across many channels, right? So I guess, who drives AI within the company? And also, what do you think? Like, is it really important to be an early adopter of new technology as a brand?
I think, and I'll jump back a little bit,
Sure.
and a little bit more of a historical perspective on that, and before we get into the world of AI where we are today. And I think when we started out not too far from here in a very small flower shop on the Upper East Side of Manhattan on 62nd and First. And we learned about the business, we learned about customer relations then, and we were fortunate to really adapt a revolutionizing technology at the time called 800 dialing telephone service. But we saw what we could do with a technology like that by embracing 800 service, creating a brand around the phone number. We disrupted the floral industry pretty much overnight. And we realized then that if we have the ability to do that with a technology like a telephone number, that anybody could do that to us with other technologies that come along. So when we look back at our company, we really have gone through different waves of reinvention or waves of change that we've gone through. The first was starting out as brick and mortar retail stores, and we started to grow the business that way. Then in the mid-'80s, adopted this 800 telephone number and really transformed the company really into a telephonic commerce company. And then just as we were really starting to grow then, we saw a new technology emerging called online services. And for those of you who might remember, or maybe you read in your history books, there was a company called CompuServe. My daughter actually read about this in a textbook one time. But we launched one of the first stores on CompuServe, and we started to learn then. Then we experimented with a whole bunch of interactive technologies in the early 90s. We were the first company to sell any product of any kind on AOL in 1994, and we launched our first website on the Netscape technology platform in 95. So we did a lot of experimentation, but by 97-ish or so, the consumer voted the World Wide Web was the winning technology platform, and we know how that just changed the world, and we rode that wave. The third wave of change for us was e-commerce. Then we saw a new emerging technology coming along in the mid-2000s called mobile. And we started really experimenting with mobile probably around the 2006 timeframe, 2007. I remember when we hit the recession, and for the first time in the company's history, we really needed to make some tough decisions and cut costs around the company. But one area that I prioritized that we would not cut costs in was mobile. Because you could just see that we didn't know how it would impact our business. I don't think any of us knew how it would transform our lives like it really has. I remember, though, having conversations with some people in the company that said we really should not be investing in mobile right now. With all the cost cutting we need to do, mobile's not going to amount to a lot of revenue for years to come. That person was right, But I said, if I'd said that in 1994, where would we be in the world of e-commerce? And we stuck with it and really became a mobile, over the time, became a mobile-first company is really how we think. And it's been working very well for us. More than half of our customers come to us via mobile devices today. But now I think we're starting to even start that cultural shift again to move from a mobile-first company to an AI-first company. And it's because we've seen that, you know, certainly AI, robotics, we started reading a lot about that, and we see, we're not seeing it yet, but we see the potential that has to change consumer behavior once again. Certainly in the world of AI, it has a huge amount of potential just in the way we run the business, I think.
Right, and also I think you've been, you know, very successful with AI, you know, with and also just chat, right? The whole culture of chat that you with Gwen.
Right, right.
Some other
Yeah,
innovations.
what we see emerging now is what I think is going to be the fifth wave of change for us, and what's being called conversational commerce. So we started again, as is our culture, as is our DNA, got involved early. We launched a chat, the first chatbot on Facebook's Messenger platform 2 years ago now, which I didn't realize that. I was actually in a car on the way into the city just now and checking some emails, and I get an email from one of our friends out in California that was at F8, and he sends me 3 different images. We were featured in 3 different presentations at F8 yesterday, which was nice. But I was out there 2 years ago when Zuckerberg featured us as one of the first bots in a chatbot in Messenger. So we launched in 16, we launched that chatbot in Facebook Messenger. We launched on Alexa 2 weeks after that. And 2 weeks after that, we launched Gwyn, which is another great acronym. This one's actually a good one, Gifts When You Need. We launched Gwyn. She's our own AI-powered gift concierge. And really the reason to do that was we said we just need to get involved. We see this world emerging. Let's get involved early. Let's start to learn. And we've just been adding capabilities since then. And then, you know, coming across a company like yours is a natural fit for us. Because, you know, I look at, we haven't done this yet. I know you're pushing me on this. But I look at the ability to take the SmartGift capabilities and plug it into what's emerging now as message as a platform. And I think it has huge potential because our job is to deliver smiles on behalf of our customers. And really, in order to do that, we need to constantly make it easier and easier for them to act on their thoughtfulness. And just think of how easy we could do it if we had the SmartGift capability in the message platforms. I think it'd be a tremendous uplift.
Absolutely. When are we doing it?
We'll launch
when is it happening?
Right after Mother's Day.
Right after Mother's Day. Well, so going back to conversational commerce, right? So one of the biggest things that we are finding as a company is that the idea of personalized engagement, especially when it comes to gifting, where people are, you know, it's peer-to-peer shopping behaviors, right? And it's the element of, it's the only transaction where you're not buying for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So what we're finding is that, you know, that conversational shopping and getting to be able to kind of, you know, escalate that or elevate that within the gifting experience has been, has dramatically increased our KPIs as a company for our partners. How have your customers responded to your adoptions in, you know, latest in conversational commerce?
Yeah, I think very well. I think early on it was still, as with everything, it's still kind of in the early discovery phase. But, you know, what we saw was, again, going back to what we've always done, positioning our company where the customer wants us to be or where they are. You know, it's just the same thing when we got into the world of social. You know, we got into that early, and, you know, we charged somebody in the company to establish a store in Second Life. Why do you always laugh at all these old things? And the reason being is because we were reading about how many millions of people were actually spending time in Second Life. So we established a store there. It was a wild failure, but it worked very well. And we learned some great things. So the same thing in conversational commerce. We took it, we see how, you know, how many people, I forget how many billions or 1.5 billion monthly active users right now in Facebook Messenger. Clearly people, that's where they're spending the time. That's why we're seeing the emergence really now of messaging as a platform. And you just look at all of the new things and where people are spending time. RCS technology is coming out now and doing things with Samsung. So I think first and foremost, customers are telling us, yes, this is where I want to interact with brands. I want to interact with a brand in the environment I'm in the manner that I'm interacting with my friends. Don't force me to leave Messenger and go into your very structured website form, which is very good for a website. but they want to be able to do it in a much more conversational way. Or like in one of the clips that I saw from F8 yesterday, a gentleman was talking about, rushing home from a business trip to get home in time for his daughter's dance recitals, and was able to go on and just within a couple of quick questions and back and forth on his on the Facebook Messenger chatbot, have flowers delivered to his daughters in time.
Right.
That's what people want. So we're learning that they want this. And now we're starting to see it really start to emerge beyond just strict messaging, and now starting to bring more rich media into the messaging capabilities and making it easier and easier. And someday, if we're able to, we'll plug SmartGift into those.
After Mother's Day.
Okay.
It's 2 weeks. Well, I mean, I guess, I wouldn't be, well, I almost have to ask you this question as being one of the, a founder of SmartGift. I would love to sort of just talk to you a little bit about how you are utilizing the capability today, how it is augmenting the customer experience for you, or, and giving your consumers a different way to shop. So for us, Flowers is our biggest partner, and I think when we got that deal, it was a very important deal to us because they are pure online gifting business. So to be able to have had that experiential nod from them and have have their backing was really huge. So so we've been truly thrilled by this partnership.
Yeah, and we're equally as thrilled, and I see a huge amount of potential. As discussions that Monika and I have had, this is a product that we've actually been looking for a long time. And we've tried to develop it ourselves in the past, but I learned also a long time ago, we're really good at gifting. We're not necessarily good at developing software. But and internally we used to call this blind gifting. Giving people the ability to send a gift to someone without having to know where they are, without having to know their address. So taking the SmartGift capability and making it easy for our customers. Many of you may have an opportunity, people you've met at this conference, you want to send a little thank you gift as a follow-up. Well, you might not have their address, or no, should I send it to the office, send it to the home? Who knows where the recipient wants it to go? All we need is your text message or your email address, and we'll send you an electronic version, an e-gift and I'll choose a gift to send, but then I'll also give you the ability to swap that out. Maybe you don't want it. I did this just recently with my daughter, and was sending it for her. She turned 30 recently, so I was sending flowers to her for her 30th birthday, but I wasn't sure exactly where she would want them sent. So I sent her an e-gift using SmartGift capability, and she stayed with the product I chose, which was good. But she was able to route it. Originally, I was sending it to her office. She was able to route it, because this was a Wednesday, I think was her birthday. She was going to be leaving that Thursday to go away for the weekend, which I didn't know. She should tell me these things. So she was able to say, no, send it to my home, and send it to my home next week when I get back, so it's not just sitting there. So I think we're seeing other companies do similar, right? So we're working with FedEx right now on their FedEx Delivery Manager product, putting the ownership of the delivery, the control of the delivery in the hands of the person receiving the delivery. So FedEx is giving you the ability to route it to a Kinko's, FedEx office store, et cetera, choose the delivery time. So SmartGift does the same thing for us, and I could see that really working well. Very often, especially even this week, with Mother's Day, it's also Nurses Day, and it's also Teacher Appreciation Week. So we have a hard time during a busy holiday like that, making sure we get the deliveries early to a school. Well, what if you just give the ability for that teacher to say, no, don't try and rush it to the school, and then I have to carry the flowers or the gift home with me, with everything else I'm carrying. Let me reroute that delivery. And SmartGift gives us the capability to do that. So I love the idea of putting the ownership of the delivery in the hands of the recipient.
Yeah, and I think that's, gifting has this interesting dichotomy. You have a sender and a recipient, and you have two behaviors and two preferences. And how do you really come together as a relational database, right, around two people in a transaction? So that's.
And we did some great results, had some great results for Valentine's Day. Not even a full integration of the capability yet, but we really used it for Valentine's Day just after I could no longer guarantee, when we do this kind of by zip code, and once we hit capacity in certain zip codes, and I can no longer guarantee a Valentine delivery, but by having the SmartGift capability, I left a good opportunity for all of us guys. And if you Women aren't familiar. We're not necessarily the most thoughtful. We don't plan ahead, and all we want to do is get it done. So even though you came to us, maybe at 11 a.m. on the 14th and said, "Why, you can't get flowers delivered today still?" You were able to send an e-gift, and at least it still looked like you thought about it ahead of time.
That's true. So the women did scratch their e-gift off. They could see the flowers.
And the reveal capability is a very nice
absolutely.
touch.
And then they can swap for the different brands of 100 flowers. Yeah, we were quite circumspect. We were wondering, like, are men really going to do that? And yeah, like, men are really last minute. But okay, so one of the things I think is would be really great, just probably for just everybody present here today, is how do you think about partnerships? How do you if we're to say, like, hey, we want to get into AI, we want to get into conversational commerce, where do you start? Where do you start sort of new initiatives, right? When there are just sort of plethora of priorities on the roadmap, and clearly there are certain new technologies that that are driving KPIs, right?
Sure, I think so. I think there's a couple of things there. One is, excuse me. One aspect is always, I think, it's a cultural thing for a company. We've been very fortunate that we've been able to build a culture of innovation in the company. So even back to a question I didn't answer for earlier, who drives AI in our company? It really is the culture that drives it. There's no one person in charge, no one group of people that are in charge of our AI initiatives. There's a number, and it's really the culture that knows we want to be intellectually curious, we want to move fast. I want people in our company to get speeding tickets, not parking tickets, try new things. And what really is happening nicely is that I see the technology team and the business team trying to stay one step ahead of each other, and that's real nice. But we look at different opportunities and say, when we see something emerging, as I mentioned, we believe in getting engaged early and trying to figure that out. And it can't always be with the internal team. Yeah. So if I go back, for example, to 2016, when we launched those 3 products in the span of 6 weeks, it was January of that year that we were at the fancy food show out in San Francisco, and I also brought some people in. We had a management meeting there, and we were talking because we've been circulating these articles around robotics and the robots that were going to be changing our lives, and we just knew we needed to get involved in this world. So at the meeting, I said, okay, how are we going to do it? And all I saw was a lot of blank stares. So from the 1-800-Flowers management folks, they're saying to me, I got Valentine's Day coming up in a few weeks. The food business is saying, well, I just came out of holiday season. I got all these trade shows lined up. So I went to my CIO and I said, Arnie, I think this is up to me and you. And I said, let's find a couple of other people. And we had a couple of people in the Manhattan office that were real young, driving people. And I knew even though their plates were full, they wouldn't say no. So the kind of 4 of us, and then there was a 5th person we added in, and we just said, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to take it outside the process of the internal operations of the company. This isn't going to be reported on my Friday 8:30 a.m. Friday IT status report meeting. Nobody's going to know we're doing this because they're not going to argue about prioritization and why we're funding this and not funding that, and we just did it. But to do it, we had to go outside and find some partners. And luckily we have, over the years, one of the mantras of our business that comes from my brother, who prior to getting in this business was a social worker. And he learned as a social worker, if you want to have an impact on someone, you have to build a relationship with them first. So it's the same philosophy we bring to business. Build a relationship, do business second. So in this specific case, we had built relationships with the team at Facebook over the past few years. And I reached out to one of the senior people at Facebook and said, who's in charge of Messenger? I know you're looking to do a lot of things there. Who's in charge of Messenger? Who should I speak to? They put me in touch with this person. I said, okay, now, who should I work with to develop products in Messenger? And they introduced us to this great guy, Shane Mack and Robert Stevens, who have a company called Assist out in San Francisco. And we worked with them to develop the Facebook Messenger platform. We worked through introductions from them, and they gave us somebody to work with at Amazon on the Alexa platform. And we already had a good relationship with IBM, and they steered us to the right people to work on the Gwyn product. So with all of these new innovations, that's the key thing. Leveraging your relationships, finding companies that you can work with that can let you get to market quickly. Since then, we've internalized a lot of that capability, but we still work with several of those partners.
Right. So speaking of, just how you've been pushing customer experience, what do you think is the next customer experience? Where is it going? And there are many facets of it, but if you were to pick maybe 2 or 3 that are truly going to be, deeply impactful.
Yeah, well, I think everything we're talking about in the world of conversational commerce, I think what we're seeing coming out of this is messaging really, the messaging as a platform, I think we're seeing a lot of enhancements coming there, I think is really going to be the most immediate new customer experience for us. We're seeing this in many different facets. Besides the product, the chatbots that we've launched, the new chatbot that we just launched 2 or 3 weeks ago with Apple Business Chat, and seeing how companies are putting so much focus on this area is telling us, okay, we made the right bet 2 years ago, and we're in the right place. But I love Apple Business Chat's approach to this. It's not a bot. It's just using that chat product and bringing the human into it and connecting 2 humans to actually do business. It's a marvel idea. But and that one caught us by surprise on how much they said, no, we don't want it to be a bot. We just want it to just plug into your CSP and really put a human in touch with a human. Where the example that was used in my office yesterday, and Tom Hartnett, who runs the flowers brand, looked and said, we're going to do what? But the example was, well, somebody sees something out in the garden, they could just take a picture of the flower and text it to us using business chat, and then we could get back to them and tell them, yes, we could do that product. Tom's like, how the hell are we going to do that on the fulfillment side? But the technology will be there. But then the other big thing I think for us is voice. As it's kind of back to the beginning for us. And voice is the true new user interface. And we're seeing that really start to become more and more prevalent. Certainly as the home gets smarter and smarter and all of your voice interaction in the home. But I think as we're starting to see now, voice become more prevalent in automobiles, I think that will start to tip the scale.
Yeah, absolutely. I think voice as a platform is definitely, probably very immediately so. I mean, the next 5 years, going to be massively disruptive. I was thinking, if it's okay with you, should we take some audience questions, perhaps?
Yeah, I think we should. But to tee it up, I'll start.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you see besides voice? What do you see is, and I know your team is all focused on revolutionizing gifting and enhancing the experience. What do you see coming next?
Thanks for asking me a question. That's great to be on the receiving end. I think for us, it's really about so where are the touch points where people are, and how do we augment those touch points to enable them to buy for others, right? Essentially. So what we're doing is we're solving the complexity of buying for others. So whether that's in messaging, whether that's in voice, whether it's in chat. So we feel like, so we think that gifting capabilities should be anywhere where people are, whether it's in social. So Instagram, Twitter not really, but I think Instagram, right? That's a big one for us. So it's that, So we think about the wave as well as, before you could buy simple stuff for yourself, then you could buy complex stuff for yourself, then you could buy simple stuff for others. And really the way we think about SmartGift is that now we enable people to be able to buy complex stuff for others, confidently. And that's sort of our vision. Yeah.
It's good. It's why we're working so well together. A very similar thought process.
We have the wave going, yeah.
Any questions anybody have? Yes.
So thinking about your brand tone and messaging, you're exploring all these technologies, you're pushing to follow the customer, but you've got people all on the spectrum. Let's say boomers or Gen X who don't want to engage with this thing. How do you handle the decisions to lean into the new but bring along the older? Or where do you make or an example of like a tough call you've made where, sorry, I'm almost done. Where you just sort of like, they're just going to have to come along, or you.
Yeah, so I don't make those decisions. And I think that really, when I described earlier the different waves of change that we've had, one thing about waves is when one wave comes in, the other one just doesn't disappear. They kind of merge together. And I mean, on the flowers brand, it's the smallest percentage, but still about 7% of our customers still choose to call us on the telephone. Most millennials don't understand what 1-800 even stands for. But whereas on our Harry and David business, for example, it's still about, and that's an older demographic on that business, it's still about 30% of our business conducted on the telephone. We actually still get some mail-in orders from the catalog. We'll take them any way they come. So I don't force, and I think we learned that early on, really, when the web really started to take off, and we had some businesses that were catalog-driven businesses and said, wow, it would be really great if we could push this business to the web and save a lot of money and save a lot of time. We couldn't push that business to the web. It happened over time, but we had to let the consumer do that. The more we tried to change consumer, forcibly change consumer behavior, the more we lost. So I think so I always look at these new technologies, and what I love about getting involved in the new technologies too, it always puts us out in front of a new audience. It puts us in front of that early adopter audience first, which also tends to be younger, so it's always bringing in new fresh blood into our customer file. You got to be quick, Andrew.
We got to get him to move faster. What do you think? So a quick question. Obviously, it's what keeps you up at night is where is the customer going to be that you're not? So I think that's probably a lot of our concerns in the audience. Have you thought about this younger customer? Are they gifting flowers?
Mm-hmm.
And if they are they gifting it at the same rate that you and I were gifting flowers? Are they gifting different things? And does the 1-800-flower brand, how do you worry about what they're going to be gifting if it's not flowers?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think I look at it a little bit more holistically, right? So as a business, what we've been building is what we call the celebrations ecosystem. And we have a family of brands. And we have 1-800-Flowers, we have Harry and David, Cheryl's Cookies, 1-800-Baskets, Popcorn Factory, Simply Chocolate, Personalization Universe, a couple of others. So that's really to address that question. So first off, I do think the younger person is going to gift flowers. I think it's just a timeless tradition. The challenge, though, is to always make it affordable for people to do so. And we work with our florists around the country, and this is a challenge that we have. Some florists will say, no, I only want the order if it's $50 or more. I'm like, okay, you're going to turn off a whole percentage of the audience that can't afford $50 to say thank you. So like one of the products that we launched a couple of years ago with our Cheryl's brand is called a cookie card. And for $5, you can deliver one single cookie in a box that says, thinking of you, happy birthday, etc. Like we like to say in our company, I have a few $75 friends. I got a lot of $5 friends. So we're always looking at what products, and in the celebrations ecosystem, digital gifting, e-gifting capabilities for us is a very important part. We want to bring products to the table for our customers that they can express to each other their thoughts for free. And if we can find ways to do that, we're going to do that. But other than that, I want products starting at $5, $10, $15, etc. Get them into our ecosystem, and then when they need flowers, they'll buy them.
So one thing we've seen with Cheryl's is that so many recipients, when they get an e-gift, pretty much all of them send a Cheryl's cookie back as a thank you.
Yes.
So it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Good. Got time for another question, maybe? Okay.
What sort of pressures do you see for sustainability? Like, I get roses and I love them, but the packaging seems to be expensive, and then you hear about the water they use up, and I think, maybe I'd like a nice live plant instead. Are you seeing like a push for the younger consumer to choose a new type of product?
So question, in case everybody couldn't hear, where do I see the pressures around sustainability? The pressure actually isn't as much as I thought it would be by now. And really, I look at it first and foremost, we take more of a view of it on the food side of our businesses. And you mentioned water and how we're doing irrigation. I mean, I never thought I would do this, but I'm a farmer. I have 750,000 pear trees out in Oregon. And it's all gravity-fed water supply system, so we hope for snow every year. But we're always looking at those things. Packaging on floral is an important aspect. There's some efforts going on right now to make sure that the box, when we do ship flowers in a box, which is only about 25% of the time, that it's a biodegradable box. So we're looking at it, but I'm getting not as much pressure from the consumer on that as I would have expected. And the other thing we've done with organic products over time, introduced them probably maybe too early because there's not enough of a customer base there for it, and people aren't willing yet to pay a little bit extra for it. We have organic pears in our Harry and David business, but out of 3,000 acres of orchards I have a very small number of acres that I need for the organic pears today. So.
I think we're all out of time, so should we take a last question, or is that?
I think we're going to wrap up.
Yeah, okay, let's wrap up.
Yeah, well, thank you both. It was outstanding.
Thank you.